Okay, I'm doing a little short one. Hopefully, it will be very short. Um, I've had a lot of comments and suggestions to shorten the name of the channel. It was called Recycled Cottage and Garden because when I first started making videos, I had a little mobile home and a very small garden. Then I moved to my parents' house because of a job loss, and I lived in a 10 by 12 bedroom in the garage, and I had a small garden. Now, for 2 years, I have been in Colorado, and for the first year and a half, I shared an apartment with a friend, and now I have my own apartment. I'm on the third floor. I have no garden space at all. Currently I have a aloe plant in a pot on the table in near the window. I have another pot that I tried to root. Now last year this worked beautifully. I rooted in water some cuttings off of a geranium plant. It grew beautifully. Unfortunately, this summer, while I was gone for 2 months, and I put the pots of stuff in the community room, and my next door neighbor does the watering. She said she'd water them. She did. Unfortunately, I was only meant to be gone a month. I ended up being gone 2 months because my dad got hurt and was in the hospital for a little bit. Um, the geranium got very, very leggy. I tried to trim it back. It really wasn't working very well. Um, I mean, it was, the little stalks with a leaf on the end of it were, a foot tall. That it doesn't look good. It needed to have been trimmed back a lot. So I finally just broke some pieces off and rooted them in water again, like I did last year. And when they had plenty of roots on them, I got the pot ready, brand new soil and stuff, decent soil, nice pot that has the little reservoir in the bottom so you don't really overwater it, but you're not going to spill water anywhere. I have out of 5 starts with probably 10 to 12 leaves total between the 5 little starts. I have one start with a one leaf on it, and it's not looking too good. So, my plan at this point, if that one dies, I'll just set it to the side. We're not going to worry about it or stress over it. Um, I'll get some herb plants come spring. That's when the little nurseries are open, or if the hardware store, Ace usually has a polytunnel they put plants in, and they do carry herbs. So that's my plan come springtime. Um, and I'll just find some pots that will fit in the windowsill. I have a 12-foot bank of windows facing the west in my living room. So they should do well placing them there. Not sure how well they'll do come winter, but we're going to give it a try and see what happens. So, since I sort of, kind of, in a weird way, have a little garden with my aloe plant and my one leaf geranium, um, I think my newest videos, people are realizing I'm in an apartment. I'm trying to make that very clear. It's in the description of my channel. If you go to the channel page, it's there. I've kind of updated a couple of things there. So I just now went ahead and took off the in an apartment because it just, it was so long nobody could remember it. I want to leave the recycled cottage and garden because I do try to grow something. And also, I've had that for a long time. I don't want to lose that part. And my little logo, which looks like a little recycling symbol, has those letters in it. In fact, in a chat room on Facebook or on YouTube, most people will just either call me recycled or RCG. Most people don't know my name, and that's fine. I don't care if you do. My name's Angela. But Henny, and I'm sorry the lighting's so bad, but it's dark outside. My light source is coming from the overhead kitchen light. And I know that doesn't look real great, and I look totally washed out. But that's okay. So we're changing the name back to Recycled Cottage and Garden. And if somebody just asked me where the garden was, I'm going to show them a picture of my aloe plant because that's the one that's growing well. And that one was a freebie because last year, was a bad, well, was it last year? This year. The earlier this year was not a good place for us. We've had New Year's Eve. One of the ladies that had been in the hospital for a couple of months, she passed away. So that started off the year. Later on, we had another gentleman down on the first floor who had a brain aneurysm. He passed away. Not 2 weeks later, a gentleman on the second floor who was an absolute health nut. Now, granted, he was in his 70s, but an absolute health nut, very, very active, walked, hiked, and biked up and down mountains and everything else, and ate, all organic, healthy stuff. And he passed away from a massive heart attack. In fact, but at least he went doing what he loved. There was a hiker found him still attached to his mountain bike because they have these clips that go over your feet to hold your feet on the pedals. He was still attached to it, but he was gone. So that was Eric, and the aloe came out of Eric's apartment. The gentleman in charge of taking care of all of his personal effects because he really didn't have any family here. He came out with a grocery cart full of plants and kind of hung out in the lobby for a little bit, wanting to, anybody want any of these? Otherwise, he was going to put them in the dumpster. There was a bunch of us, and somebody went to tell everybody else to see if anybody wanted plants. So we all got a little bit of something, I think. And I took a couple little sprigs of baby aloes that he had started, obviously off of his great big one, which had leaves about 2 inches wide. So I'm not sure. This one's in a small pot. I don't think it's going to get that big. But it's quite full. There was several babies, and they branched out, and they filled out nicely, and they're doing well. In fact, I burnt my hand about a week or so ago, and was able to pull a little leaf off of there and squeeze out enough aloe to make the burn go away. So that worked out real well. Let me see if I can hold this up without it. This Chromebook laptop is sitting on one of those lap trays made for a computer. It has holes in it so it doesn't get hot. And that's why it moves. So apologize for that. I'm not used to doing this with it sitting in my lap like this. So I'll try and make it stay still. It probably drives you nuts. Anyway, we're at a little over 9 minutes, and pretty much that's all I wanted to say is I've changed the name back to Recycled Cottage and Garden without the in an apartment at the end of it. And like I say, most people just refer to me as recycled. That's fine. I'd say 90% everything in my apartment is recycled, one way or another. And when I get to the point where I have a decent camera that I can move around with it, Um, then I'll show parts of the apartment and different things that I have, and point out and say, oh, everything on that wall is recycled, came from a thrift store, or I made it, or, whatever. Because that's a lot of it. I buy stuff at thrift stores. I bought my furniture off, except for one chair. I bought my furniture off of Facebook Marketplace for cheap. I bought a table. I bought a 1941 Singer sewing machine in the wooden cabinet for $20 at a yard sale. I got a really, really nice free bookshelf off of Facebook Marketplace. Just stuff like that. It's either free or it's cheap. Cheap enough that I can afford it. I did pay up for the one table that sits between my two chairs. Um, and that's because it is solid oak. It's like dragging a dead body around because it's that heavy and well made. And I did pay up for that. It's that nice craftsman style that I like, with the little side slats on it and stuff. And it's just a really nice table in excellent condition. And it's an older piece. The guy that I bought it from, it had belonged to his girlfriend's grandfather who passed away. And they decided it just didn't work in their place. So I got it for a very good price for what it is. But a lot of my stuff was free or really, really cheap because it's what my budget will hold. Anyway, so I am still recycled. It is still sort of a cottage to me. Um, and the garden so far is an aloe and one sprig with one leaf of a geranium. And we'll see what happens to that poor thing because I really don't think it's going to survive it. I'm not sure what it didn't like, if it was just too cold over there by the window. I'm not sure. We get all that afternoon sun and it warms it up in here, but I don't know. I don't know. No great loss because it certainly didn't cost me anything. They were just clippings from the geranium plant up in the community room. So, anyway, well, I'm going to end it here and pop this up so that y'all can see it. And please ignore my washed out face that I have no color. But that's the fluorescent lighting in the kitchen is the only light I've got on right now. Um, and the little one over on the table wouldn't put out enough to make any difference, so I just left it. Anyway, thanks for stopping by if you have, and check me out again because I've got ideas for more things to show on this channel. And my next one will be, I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow, probably not, but it will come out again this week. Will be kind of a review over canning books that I use and that I like, where you can find some, a couple that I used to have that I gave away to someone else who needed them. And we'll talk about that later this week, and we'll catch you up later. Thanks for stopping by.